So my name is Alisha and I teach at Academy of Pastry and Culinary Arts, Gurgaon. I will be taking you through the basics of chocolate, and any queries or any questions that you may have, feel free to write them in the chat box and I will be happy to answer them towards the end of the session. Uh, there is a PDF handout that has been shared on the APCA online subscribers group. Uh, if you have that handy, it will be great because I will be going along with the handout and explaining to you in brief the process of chocolate. We will start with the process of how chocolate comes from a bean to a bar. It's fairly simple. So for those of you who know, chocolate comes from the plant Theobroma cacao. It grows very close to the equator, and India is one of the countries that uh, cocoa plantations are grown. Also, you will find them in parts of South America and Central America. Okay, chocolate was probably one of the greatest discoveries by accident, and it was originally consumed as a liquid when cocoa bean was ground and had as a drink. After some additions of sugar, milk powder, etc., chocolate in its true form came to be developed as chocolate that we know of today. So chocolate comes in relatively large pods, and inside these pods, once it splits open and is fermented and roasted, you would have beans like this. Okay, so this is what in the bean inside the pod looks like. Uh, there are three main varieties of beans. One is Criollo. Okay, Criollo is a very flavorful bean, and 10% of the world's production consists of the Criollo bean. The other is Forastero. Okay, it has relatively large production across the world. However, the flavor of the bean is not as good as the Criollo. Okay, and you have a hybrid variety of the bean known as Trinitario. It consists of 15 to 20% of the world's production, and it has a nice robust flavor. Now, when we talk about the production of chocolate from bean to bar, once this relatively large pod is harvested, it is in its unripened stage, green in color, and as it ripens, it moves to yellowish to red. It can take on different hues depending on the breed of cocoa pod that it is. So the first step in the production would be to ferment these large pods. Okay, this could range from 5 to 7 days, and it happens in large wooden vats. Okay, it could happen along with banana leaves, etc., to develop flavor. As they ferment, they split open, and you will see these individual pods or individual seeds which appear inside. Now, to stop the fermentation, fermentation is an important process in developing the flavor of the bean. If you don't ferment, the chocolate will not develop its real nice flavor. So once it is fermented, you need to stop the process of fermentation, and hence it is dried, usually in the sun. By drying in the sun, the moisture in the bean is reduced, okay, and it can be then cleaned and processed for shipping. Okay, once it is cleaned, it is then further roasted. So what I have here with me are roasted beans. Okay, we get these from Tamil Nadu or Kerala, as they don't grow towards the northern region of India. And these beans have a shell on the top, and it has a nib in the center. So I'll just break one for you and show you what it's like. Thank you. Okay, so outside you will have a husk, and inside you will have the nib. Okay, there is a shell on the outside, and in the process after roasting, these shells are then peeled off. Okay, you're not supposed to put the shell in the making of the chocolate. So you would peel off the shell and it would be something like this, and you would have the inside nib on the side. Okay. Now, once this process happens, you have the next step, which is micronizing, or basically breaking down the bean into smaller parts. And that would get you something like this, which is known as cocoa nibs commonly. Okay. They are basically broken down parts of the beans. Okay. And they should not contain shell. Okay. It's just the internal part of the cocoa bean. So once this is achieved, the next step is to winnow them and ensure that if there is any husk inside this or any shell, it will fly off. Okay. There should not be more than 1.75% of the shell, else the chocolate flavor would be affected. The next step is to grind or mill this. Okay. And in the process of grinding or milling, there is some amount of heat that is generated, and this heat causes this chocolate mass to become liquid in form. Okay. And hence it is known as chocolate liquor because of its liquid state. If this chocolate would be tempered and crystallized, you would get what is known as cocoa mass or cocoa paste. This cocoa mass or cocoa paste is 100% chocolate. It does not contain any additives in the form of sugar, milk solids, lecithin, etc. Okay, it's pure chocolate in all its original form without any additions. Now, to this cocoa mass, okay, if you would use some hydraulic pressure and press it, you would have two byproducts because of the force that is applied. You would have one which is cocoa solids, and the second part from the cocoa bean is cocoa butter, which is the fat that is naturally present in chocolate. Both these would be generated if pressure is applied on this, and it causes it to separate into its fat and its solid. Okay. Now, after this, you would have chocolate that is mixed. This cocoa mass is mixed along with different additives like milk solids, okay, sugar and lecithin flavored with vanilla usually, okay, and it's made into a very homogeneous blend. It is then refined further. So in the process of refining, the particle size or the microns of uh, this molecule of chocolate is reduced to something relatively finer in size. The next step, which is very important in the process of chocolate making, is conching. So conching, as you would be aware, chocolate is acidic in nature. It has a pH range of around 5, which makes it acidic in nature. Now, by conching, it will reduce the acidity in the chocolate. It will also help develop flavor, and also it will help in the release of any excess moisture in the chocolate. Okay, conching happens in this process. Okay, heat is generated because the chocolate is being ground between uh, like plates. Okay, and some amount of heat is generated in this process. If you see the picture in the PDF, it would look something like a wet grinder. Okay, and as conching happens, it could last for 3 hours to 96 hours depending on the manufacturer's instructions of making this chocolate. Post conching, okay, there is a stage at which you would add lecithin inside. Okay, if you want to add any more flavoring, you could add flavoring, and uh, you would then start to temper the chocolate and mold it into the state that you would want. Like if you would want chocolate bars, you would mold it as chocolate bars. If you would want calots, you would do calots. If you would want beans, you would do beans. So depending on different manufacturers, they would have their own way of setting their chocolate. Some could even set them in bigger slabs. Okay, so this is the entire process of how chocolate goes from the stage of a bean, okay, into making a an entire bar that is sold for commercial production or manufacturing. Do we have any questions till now? Nothing yet? Okay. So I will move on to the next stage where I will discuss with you how the different categories of chocolate. So you would have dark chocolate, milk and white, depending on the percentage of milk solids present in the chocolate. So you will have the main component, which would include the cocoa liquor, which is chocolate like cocoa mass in its liquid form, along with sugar, lecithin, and vanilla. In dark chocolate, you would have a small percentage of milk solids. In milk chocolate, the percentage of milk solids and sugar is higher, and the percentage of cocoa solids is less, hence classifying it as a milk chocolate. In white chocolate, there are many chocolatiers who believe that white chocolate is not a true chocolate because it only contains cocoa butter and milk solids, okay, along with sugar, of course. Then you have ruby chocolate, which was formulated after many years. Okay, the bean itself is pink in color, and this pink is natural. It is not an addition of color. It is treated the same way as dark chocolate in terms of its tempering notes, and it has a very fruity flavor to it. Okay, tart and fruity flavor. Uh, Now, many people have a question on the difference between a couverture chocolate and a compound chocolate. A couverture chocolate would contain cocoa solids plus cocoa butter with the addition of sugar, milk solids, uh, an emulsifier like lecithin. Okay, but in compound chocolate, this cocoa butter is replaced by vegetable fats or hydrogenated fats, and it would have cocoa powder, and that's what is the distinguishing factor between a couverture chocolate and a compound chocolate. Now, for a couverture chocolate, because it contains a minimum of 32% cocoa butter, and cocoa butter requires tempering so that the seeds of crystals can be developed so that chocolate sets with a nice shine and snap. Couverture chocolate needs to be tempered vis-a-vis compound chocolate where you just melt and use because it has no cocoa butter. It contains vegetable fats which do not require tempering. Okay, which brings me to the next point of what is tempering of chocolate and why is it required. So am I visible? Okay. So it brings me to the next point of tempering of chocolate. So the process of tempering is very simple. It requires temperature, time, and agitation. These three factors are very important in the process of tempering chocolate. Now, you would have been shared a table of tempering wherein you heat chocolate to a particular temperature, you cool it down to a particular temperature, and you mix it together to a particular working temperature. Like for milk chocolate, or sorry, for dark chocolate, the working temperature would be 31, 32 degrees Celsius. For milk chocolate, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, and for white chocolate, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. These temperatures are almost common for all brands of chocolate. However, do check with the packet that you're tempering if there are any different tempering notes while tempering this chocolate. Now, there are 6 beta crystals present in chocolate. Basically, these beta crystals are present in the cocoa butter, not in the cocoa solids, only in the cocoa butter. And these crystals need to be agitated in order to uh, help the chocolate set with a nice snap and shine. So, so you would be able to create crystal number 1 to crystal number 5, and 6 happens on cooling. Now the most important crystal to create is crystal number 5. Okay, for the best and most optimum snap and shine. And to create this crystal, it is very important to follow the heating temperature and the cool down temperature. Now, there are various methods of tempering your chocolate. One and the most efficient method would be tabling. In the method of tabling, you would melt chocolate. So I'll take the example of dark chocolate. You would melt chocolate to 45 to 50. Okay. Once it's melted, typically you would use a microwave to melt the chocolate. You would use a slab on a table, preferably marble or granite, something non-porous, and you would put 70 to 80% of chocolate on the slab, and with the help of a scraper, you would agitate the chocolate in order to cool it down and create these stable beta crystals. Once you've cooled it down for dark chocolate to 27 to 28, you would mix it back with the 20% in the bowl and give it a nice mix so that the working temperature is 31 to 32. Once you've achieved this working temperature, you can use it for n number of operations, from making chocolate garnishes to dipping to whatever use of chocolate you would require. You can use this tempered chocolate for that purpose. Now, another method which is more cleaner and more useful when tempering a small batch of chocolate would be the seeding method. So in the seeding method, you would take a quantity of chocolate, you would melt it to its melting temperature, and you would add callets of chocolate which are in its tempered state, like from the manufacturer, into this melted chocolate and agitate it well and bring its temperature down to working temperature. Okay, it is very efficient. It's like a one bowl method. Okay, and it works when you're tempering a smaller batch of chocolate. However, when you're tempering a larger batch of chocolate, it becomes quite difficult because it requires a lot of agitation as you are working in a smaller surface area. So the chocolate doesn't cool down rapidly, even though you may use a lot of agitation. Now, the next method is known as incomplete melting. It is similar to seeding method. Basically, you melt the chocolate to 80%, and with the callets that are left inside while melting, you agitate it well enough till all the callets melt out without any further heat, and the chocolate will reach its working temperature. This method is known as incomplete melting, and this is similar to seeding method, and it's very efficient as well, but only for a small batch of chocolate. Another really easy method but requires a huge investment is a tempering machine, and these are very expensive, but they will temper chocolate very effectively in large quantities. So if you have a big chocolate production, you would be more inclined to investing in a tempering machine which tempers chocolate automatically depending on the settings that you've put for dark, milk and white, and you will have tempered chocolate flowing out ready to use. The last and final method of tempering is something that has been developed in the recent few years. It is known as magic temper. Some people use Micrio as well, which is powdered, freeze-dried cocoa butter. And the magic temper maintains the cocoa butter in a very paste-like form, which contains seed 5 crystals, and you add 1% to 2% to the quantity of chocolate at like 33 or 34 degrees Celsius, and you agitate it well to bring it down to its working temperature of 31 to 32. You do not require to go through the whole process. Okay, and this is very efficient when you are doing large production because you just require this magic temper. It's a machine, okay, relatively expensive, but it works very efficiently. Uh, the next thing I will discuss with you all is bloom. And bloom is a grayish whitish surface that like layer which appears on the surface of chocolate. Now there would be two categories of bloom depending on how you process the chocolate. The first one, not audible. Am I audible? So audio is gone. Can't hear.
नो नो बैटरी तो काफी है 80%. हाँ 80% बैटरी है.
Am I audible now? Yeah. Okay. So I was at the part where I was explaining what bloom on chocolate is. Okay. It is a whitish grayish layer that appears on the surface of the chocolate. Okay, a whitish grayish layer that appears on the surface of the chocolate, and it is categorized into two categories. You would have something known as fat bloom and something known as sugar bloom. So fat bloom is when you have improperly tempered chocolate. Okay, you will see that it takes very long to set, and probably it will eventually crystallize and set, but not nicely. Okay, and it will have these lines on top of it, either whitish grayish in color. This is because of improperly tempered chocolate. It could also be because the room temperature at which you're tempering, like the temperature of the room, the ideal temperature when you are tempering chocolate in a room would be 18 to 25 degrees. Now, if you don't respect this temperature, you will take a long time to bring the temperature of the chocolate down to its desired temperature. And in that process, you will temper the chocolate incorrectly. And what it will give you is fat bloom on the surface of the chocolate. The other type of bloom is known as sugar bloom. And sugar bloom happens because of um, high humidity. Like very often we tend to take the chocolate and we tend to store it in a refrigerator, and a refrigerator has very high humidity. When we take this chocolate out, there is moisture that appears on the surface of the chocolate, and as this moisture evaporates, it will leave sugar crystals on the top, which will lead to a surface of bloom on the chocolate, and this is known as sugar bloom. Okay, so if you want to categorize broadly, fat bloom happens because of improper tempering, and it could be because of the room condition you are working in, while sugar bloom happens because of improper storage. Okay. Uh, in brief, I will discuss with you the type of chocolate confections. The first one would be truffles. Okay, truffles basically consist of a chocolate ganache that is coated with chocolate, and it could be dipped in various ingredients like cocoa powder and icing sugar, or some kind of nut on the outside. Truffles contain a high quantity of chocolate in the ganache as compared to the ganache of a molded chocolate, which has a much softer texture. And truffles are usually piped and rolled by hand. Like when they were first discovered, they resembled, when they were dipped in chocolate and icing sugar, cocoa powder and icing sugar, they resembled what the truffle mushroom looks like, and hence the name truffle was given to this confection. The second category is molded chocolate, and the molded chocolate in your course content, you would have seen the coffee ganache, the mint chocolate bonbon, the orange bonbon, and the Madagascar ganache. These four chocolates in your basic module would come under the category of molded chocolate. In this, you have an polycarbonate or an acrylic mold, okay, or a thermoform plastic mold that you cast with chocolate, that you create a nice thin shell on the outside, into which you fill 80% of the shell with ganache. Once the ganache has crystallized, you will pipe some chocolate, put a sheet of soft plastic, and scrape to create the sealing. Okay. And the last category, or the last main category of the type of chocolate confection, would be enrobed chocolate. So in an enrobed chocolate, you would have a ganache that is set in a frame. Okay. Once this ganache is set in a frame, you would apply a layer of tempered chocolate at the top and at the bottom. And then you would cut this ganache into squares or rectangles or bars. And this would then further be dipped in tempered chocolate. and this is what is known as enrobed chocolate or dipped chocolate. Now, when we talk about storage of chocolate confections, you would be able to store them for a relatively long amount of time if you would make them hygienically, and their sealing would be good, because chocolate acts as a barrier from moisture from the outside interacting with moisture on the inside. And provided you store it well, nothing should happen for a few days to these confections. It is best not to store them in the fridge. The best temperature to store chocolate would be uh, 18 to 20 degrees. Okay. Maximum, I would say 25 degrees. Okay. For a few days. And the humidity should be 50 to 70% to match with the water activity of the chocolate ganache. If you have a large batch of chocolate that is made of, say, truffles or molded chocolates, and you would want to store them for a longer time, I would recommend you pack them in an airtight container, cling wrap it well, and store it in the freezer. 24 hours before you require it, move it to the refrigerator, and after the refrigerator for 24 hours, keep it in an AC room for another 24 hours so that it comes to 18 to 20 degrees Celsius before they are consumed. If any of you have any questions, now I would be free to answer them for you.
How to maintain the temperature of tempered chocolate while working?
Okay, so when you are tempering chocolate and you need to maintain the temperature, the best way to do it. Okay, I'm answering the question on how to maintain the temperature of tempered chocolate. Now, if you do not have a chocolate warmer, you can use a heat gun, okay, or you can use the hot air from a blow dryer, and you can agitate the chocolate while heating up a little bit to maintain its temperature to its working temperature. That's the most easiest and the efficient way to do it, so that you don't have to temper the chocolate all over again.
The second one is explain the six-step temperature settings in tempering of chocolate.
6-step temperature settings.
Yes.
So I'll explain the process of tempering again. I will explain to you for dark chocolate. You would take a bowl of chocolate, okay, the callets, okay, you melt it in the microwave. So the first step would be melting the callets, okay. For dark chocolate, you follow the tempering temperatures of 45 to 50 when melting. You then take 80% of it on a marble slab and you agitate it and cool it down. You will cool the cool down portion on the marble slab to 27 to 28 degrees Celsius, and then you would mix it with the 20% in the bowl. Once you mix it with the 20% in the bowl, you will agitate it well to have it at 31 32 degrees Celsius, which is the working temperature of the chocolate. You are now free to use the chocolate for anything that you would like to make out of it, whether it's casting, for molding, for dipping, okay. And to maintain the temperature, you can either put it in a chocolate warmer, or you can use a heat gun or a hot air blow dryer to maintain the temperature of the chocolate.
What is ruby chocolate?
Ruby chocolate is the fourth type of chocolate. It was so Calabo produces it right now, and they are the only producers of it in the world. It has a pinkish color to it naturally, without the addition of any cocoa butter color or any food coloring. It's naturally pink in color, and it has a very fruity, tarty taste. Okay. It is available in the market all over. It was launched in 2017, early 2017, and right now it is available everywhere over the world.
Okay. So if unused, how many times can we temper the same batch of chocolate?
So provided you don't, so if your chocolate's unused, how many times can you use it? You can use it effectively n number of times, provided you don't overheat it, you store it properly, and you don't burn it. Provided you follow these 3 4 things, you can melt it and use it as per your convenience n number of times. It does not spoil if you maintain these few things.
How to check whether tempering has been done properly or not?
So the most efficient way to check if tempering has been done properly is you have a piece of parchment paper or butter paper. You would take this batch of chocolate that you've just tempered and dip a piece of the parchment into this chocolate and keep it outside at your AC room temperature. For dark chocolate, within around 5 minutes, it should show signs of setting. Okay. And then you know that your batch is tempered. If for milk chocolate, I would say around 5 to 7 minutes. And for white chocolate, probably around 7, 8 minutes for it to start to set.
What can be done after the chocolate develops fat?
If your chocolate develops fat bloom, the only way to, like, if you've made something out of it, you cannot do anything much. So the first thing would be important is to check if your chocolate is tempered by doing a parchment test. If you know your chocolate is tempered, you will not have fat bloom for sure. But if something has fat bloom and you have, say, uh, made something out of it, you cannot really do much with it, because say you have a ganache filled inside, you cannot really melt it. But if it is just like a slab of chocolate that you've set and it has a fat bloom on the surface, you can just melt it out and re-temper it again. If chocolate has bloom on it, it is not spoiled, it is not unsuitable for consumption, it just doesn't have a very appealing look to it. And that's the reason you don't want bloom on your chocolate.
Can we use KitchenAid bowl for tempering chocolate?
No, you would not use a KitchenAid bowl. You would just use a normal microwavable bowl. It could be of plastic or glass or borosilicate, which can go in the microwave. There are some people who choose to to melt chocolate over a double boiler. However, for me, it would be the last recommended option, because there are chances of moisture getting into your chocolate, which you do not want. So the best way to melt chocolate would be in the microwave, okay, in a plastic or a microwave safe bowl.
What is the difference between Madagascar chocolate and the others?
So uh, that's a nice question. So Madagascar is a single origin chocolate. Okay. A single origin chocolate is classified as a chocolate that comes from one particular region. So for Madagascar chocolate, it would be from the Madagascar region. Okay, so all the cocoa beans for this production are got from Madagascar. Now, when you get chocolate from a particular region, the bean has flavor of that region. So there are different kinds of single origin chocolates. One is Madagascar, which would have notes of vanilla. Okay, there is another which is South Home, which has a very fruity flavor. So depending on the region that it comes from, it could have different flavor profiles that come along with it. And it is classified as a single origin chocolate only because all the beans come from that particular region. Another important note when you think about a single origin chocolate is it will always have the name of that region. So say I'm making, say like I'm from India, so I'm making a single origin chocolate from Kerala because all the beans are coming from Kerala. I could call my single origin chocolate Kerala. Or if I'm from Tanzania, I will call my single origin chocolate Tanzania because all the beans are coming from Tanzania and they have a flavor profile of that region. Okay. Uh, any other chocolate produced in the world, the beans are collected from harvested from plantations from different areas and then mixed together and made into chocolate.
Um, so can you explain more why white chocolate is not a real chocolate?
So chocolatiers say that white chocolate is not a real chocolate because it does not contain any cocoa solids, which is the brown part in the chocolate. It only contains cocoa butter, but the cocoa butter also comes from the cocoa bean. So uh, it is chocolate, but it does not have cocoa solids. It would have cocoa butter, it would have sugar, it would have milk solids, and it would have lecithin in its making. Okay, it's just not, just doesn't have the cocoa solids, which is the uh, uh, cocoa content in the chocolate.
Okay. also what is the best chocolate in terms of taste, and they want to know how much percentage chocolate they should have.
For different people, to be honest, so what is the best chocolate in terms of taste and which one you should buy? It would depend on individual to individual. Like my personal preference would be a dark chocolate, but there are many people who prefer a milk chocolate or a white chocolate. It is as per the recipe that you formulated and as per the person you are catering to that you would decide which chocolate to buy. Like the most commonly used one is around a 54 to 55%. Okay. Different manufacturers make different chocolate in this cocoa percentage. Okay, like Calabu has 811. Okay, so you could just buy the chocolate as per the customer you are catering to or the recipe that has been formulated and you are following. But around a 54 to 55% dark chocolate is the most commonly used one, I would say. Any more questions?
Okay, sure. How to reuse the unused tempered chocolate?
How to reuse it. So if your chocolate has been tempered and unused and it has set, you have no other option but to melt it again and temper it again. Like in the most simplistic way that I can explain, when when you receive chocolate, so say you buy a packet of Valrhona, you buy a packet of Calabu, what you are getting is tempered chocolate, correct? The manufacturer sells to you tempered chocolate in the form of callus or bars. Now, you cannot do anything with this chocolate except make a ganache out of it directly. But if you need to liquefy it, you are melting all the stages of cocoa butter crystals, okay, which you have to create again before you use it. So it is very important that once your chocolate has been tempered, you use it by maintaining its temperature. If it has set, you have no other option but to melt it again in the microwave and follow all the steps of tempering to get it to a usable condition again, which is at its working temperature.
They want to know more about ruby chocolate. How do we, like, from where do we get it? Is it a derivative of dark chocolate?
So Ruby chocolate is sold by Barry Callebaut. If you go onto their website, you will see this chocolate available. So depending on which country you are in, whether it's Malaysia, India, America, or Singapore, wherever you are, the manufacturer selling Callebaut chocolate to you will also have a variety of Ruby chocolate available with them, okay, which you can procure. Um like it is a separate category of chocolate altogether. Okay, the tempering notes are similar to dark chocolate, and you can read the packet of Ruby chocolate where they will explain to you the tempering notes for Ruby chocolate. Okay.
Okay, they are asking, is it advisable to put the chocolate on ice bath?
You can as a method of tempering. However, you have to be very quick when you are tempering over ice. Okay. uh, when this happens, like the bowl of ice is very cold and the chocolate that's on the outside of your bowl will tend to set faster than the one that is inside. So you have to be very efficient in mixing over an ice bath in order to bring down the temperature. It is possible, but you have to be very efficient and quick when doing it, because otherwise the chocolate will tend to over crystallize and it will go below its working temperature, which you do not want. Any more questions?
Does the higher percentage of dark chocolate is more acidic?
Mute your phone. What happened?
Does the higher percentage of chocolate is more acidic? Yeah.
The pH of chocolate by nature is acidic. It is not necessary that if it is darker chocolate, it will be more acidic or less acidic. You can like in nature, chocolate is acidic in nature. Its pH is below 7. Okay. Any more questions? Are there any more questions?
How to store the chocolate product in the shop for sale?
So in for shop, when you're producing for shop or for selling, the best way to store chocolate would be in a chiller designed for chocolate, okay, or a wine chiller where the temperature is maintained between 16 to 20, okay, and these chillers have very like basic humidity of like around 50 to 70%. These, if you see in many supermarkets, chocolate is stored in these kind of chillers manufactured by different companies where the humidity is relatively lower, so you don't have moisture appearing on the surface of the chocolate. And this is typically the storage procedure for chocolate worldwide if you do not have an air conditioned setting the whole day. Okay, that's about the storage of already produced chocolate.
What
Any?
kind of chocolate is best to use for cake decoration?
So for cake decoration, what kind of chocolate would you use would totally depend on what your customer wants. Like there are many customers who prefer the taste of milk chocolate. So obviously your end goal is to cater to your customer. It does not depend on what you want. It depends on your recipes or on what your customer desires. So if a customer wants dark chocolate, you can make a dark chocolate ganache for your cake. If your customer wants milk, you can make a milk chocolate ganache for your cake. Also, like a white chocolate or a colored ganache for a white chocolate based cake. So it totally depends on what your clientele wants and what chocolate you have to work with it.
If they want to know any books you can recommend where they can learn more about chocolate?
So I can share with you a few books. There is a book of chocolate and confections. It's a beautiful book. I don't have it with me right now. I don't have it with me right now. But there's a book called Chocolate and Confections. You can refer to this book for theory as well as recipes. Okay, it has a red color cover. I don't remember the author right now. You remember? Huh? Okay.
I like to check.
Okay. So I don't remember the author right now, but it's a red color book. It has a red cover on the outside. If you can just Google it for me. Just give me a minute. I'll just. Uh,
By that time we can answer
mhm.
why is Belgian chocolate said to be the best chocolate?
So, why is Belgian chocolate said to be the best? It is not necessarily the best in the world. It is one of the best in the world. You have Valrhona, which is produced in France, which which some would debate is better than the Belgium chocolate. But Belgium, Swiss, okay, all these chocolates, they are produced and marketed very well, and hence they are known as one of the best in the world. Um, it is it is just about the way they are produced and sold, okay, which makes them the best. The quality of ingredients that they use is better than most others, okay, and hence you would classify them as one of the best in the world.
They want to know about different chocolate brands.
So there are different chocolate brands available. Uh, when you talk about chocolate, you would describe like Callebaut. Okay, its source is from Belgium. You can also speak about Valrhona. Okay, from France. Um, there are also chocolates manufactured in India. Like you will have smaller companies like Morde, etc., which produce chocolate in India, Coverture as well as Compound. You would also have a subsidiary of Barry Callebaut that produces Van Houten and Van Leer, which is its compound version. So these are the most commonly used chocolate across the world. Uh, as long as you're working with good quality chocolate, it does not matter exactly which brand you buy from.
Why does not the chocolate they don't melt?
So chocolate chips are bake stable. Okay, some of the fats are stripped and you have added along with it uh, vegetable fats for shortening. Okay, which make them very bake stable. Okay, and hence these would not melt as easily as a couverture chocolate.
Best way to clean the polycarbonate mold.
So the best way to clean a polycarbonate mold is, as far as possible, do not use detergent or a scrubber on these molds. Okay, try to clean them by hand, or in a dishwasher also works fine. But as less moisture as possible, you could just use a heat gun and clean them with Evaporex or vodka or a high alcohol sanitizer. Okay, and clean the mold with a cotton to take off any residue of chocolate or dirt that may be present in it before you use it.
How to set molded chocolates in fridge or at room temperature?
Uh, if you're setting in the fridge, make sure you don't keep it in the fridge for too long. Maximum say for 20 minutes. But before you actually sell them, you should keep them at AC temperature. The best storage temperature, as I've mentioned, is between 18 to maximum of 25, so that the chocolate maintains its shine and snap.
What is the sign when chocolate gets spoiled?
When chocolate gets
Spoiled.
if chocolate seizes, it would be a sign of it not getting spoiled, so to say, but not fit for use. Okay, is if you overheated it, okay, and it started to burn, or if you've added some amount of moisture to it, like water, etc., and the chocolate seizes or it sets into clumps, and you cannot melt it out to smooth. Okay, where it's non-granular in structure, then I would recommend you not to use it. Okay, otherwise, I have never faced an issue where chocolate has really got spoiled.
The shelf life for truffles and bonbons.
So the shelf life is stored properly. Nothing should happen for a few days, like even up to 15 days. Nothing should happen at a temperature of 18 to 20 degrees. However, if you want to increase the shelf life, you can wrap them airtight, cling wrap the box very well, and store it in the freezer. Then 24 hours prior, you keep it in the chiller. And then after the 24 hours in the chiller, when they've thawed completely, you would keep them in an air conditioned room before consuming.
Which brand of cocoa powder would you suggest?
Any brand of cocoa powder works. You can use Calabo, you can use Hershey's, you can use any brand whatsoever, Valrhona, whatever brand is suitable for you, Belcolade, anything which you find conveniently available, you can use that brand of cocoa powder.
Can we make chocolate by using compound?
Yes, you can make chocolate by using compound chocolate. There's nothing wrong with it. However, couverture chocolate is superior in taste because of the ingredients that I use, while compound chocolate would be slightly inferior because of the quality of ingredients. Compound chocolate is also much cheaper than couverture chocolate.
They want to know about the companies and vendors from where they can get this couverture chocolate and other.
It would, so the vendors would depend on your area specific. Like if you are from India, there are various websites online which sell chocolate. There are various vendors which sell chocolate, which deal with bakery supplies. You can contact any of them for your chocolate needs. Any vendor that sells bakery ingredients would definitely sell couverture chocolate or compound chocolate. Okay. Any more questions? No? Okay. So I'm hoping I have answered most of your queries. If you still do feel you have any queries, I have one more.
Provide those, the contact number of those vendors and websites.
There are people from various countries on this Zoom call. So I can tell you for India because I'm from here, but I would not be able to tell you for other countries. In India, there's Delta Nutritives. Okay, you can Google them and you will get their contact details. There's also Bakery Cart available online. Okay, you can just log into Bakery Cart and you can see there are various varieties of chocolate that are available for purchase.
Okay. So what should be the room temperature while working on chocolate, especially displays?
Especially displays. 18 to 25 is the most acceptable room temperature while working with chocolate, whether it is displays or for bonbons or for making any ganaches, etc. Like anything that involves dipping, molding, anything to do with chocolate, 18 to 25 is the most desirable room conditions for working with chocolate.
One question is, chocolate just rely on pure marketing. There is no better chocolate.
Huh.
There's some Nina,
Yeah,
she's asking this question.
if you taste chocolate, you will know what is better chocolate and not so better chocolate. It just depends on the quality of ingredients that are used. You use poor quality cocoa beans roasted at a very high temperature, not conched properly, you will have inferior quality chocolate. So it does not depend only on marketing, it also depends on manufacture of these beans. You can make very good quality of bean to bar chocolate at home, but it totally depends on where you have sourced your beans. Okay, like at one point of time, from my own experience at the academy, we got a batch of over fermented cocoa beans. The chocolate, after uh, production or making into a bar, it had a slightly acidic, a higher acidic taste to it because of the process of fermentation, which was not optimally done. So each and every step in the bean to bar process is important while making a good quality chocolate. You fail somewhere and you will have a chocolate which is slightly inferior in quality. And that is why the price point of the chocolate is different for different brands. Also, um, different for a couverture to a compound because of the processing involved.
Okay, so do they need to use a room humidifier, especially in India?
Uh, Not in the making of chocolate. Like the humidity is decent enough in India to make chocolate. I have never used a dehumidifier.
How to do pricing for chocolate?
So when you speak about pricing for chocolate, you would always calculate what your recipe cost is, and this recipe cost is known as the potential cost of making this chocolate. So if I have used, say, I'm making the milk chocolate truffle that has been shared with you. You have three basic ingredients in that. You have cream, you have milk chocolate, and dark chocolate. Depending on what kind of chocolate I have used, it and the cream I have used, I will get the cost for my chocolate. Like if I'm going to use Ellen Wire cream or a good quality whipping cream, the cost of making my chocolate itself is going to change than using a local or a low quality cream. Okay, same for chocolate. Like if I use uh, the couverture of, say, a local company as against a couverture from, say, Calabo or Valrhona, the cost will automatically differ. So you have to see, when you price your chocolate, how much does it cost you to make this chocolate? So you calculate the cost and you divide it by the number of pieces that you have achieved from this chocolate, and that will be your cost price per piece for making the chocolate. Against that, you will also add, so this is your food cost. To that, you will add your electricity cost, your wages, etc. And then you would come up with a selling price. So I cannot give you a fixed price that, okay, you sell a chocolate for 40 rupees or 45 rupees. It depends. Like you can sell a compound chocolate for 15 rupees also because it costs you less to make. But you cannot sell a couverture chocolate for 15 rupees. The cost to me only will be 15 rupees. So I'm not going to make any profit out of it. So I can't sell it to you for 15 rupees unless I'm not a business person. Okay.
Okay, so there are two more questions. They are asking for the good chocolate brand in India, and I think you explained, but they are asking again, what is the difference between kabocha and compound chocolate?
So as I've explained, couverture contains chocolate liquor, which is cocoa solids, as well as cocoa butter, which is the fat naturally present in chocolate. Along with it, it would have a proportion of milk solids. It would have flavorings like vanilla. It would have an emulsifier like lecithin added to it and blended, okay, refined, conched, and made into a bar or a slab of chocolate. As against a compound chocolate where you would have cocoa powder, okay, along with vegetable shortenings or vegetable fats that are added along with sugar, etc., that will make the bar of compound chocolate.
Okay. So they are asking, is there a quality difference between cocoa powder from international brands or Indian brands?
So it depends where you're buying it from. I will not like comment which is better or which is not so good. But again, it depends on brand to brand how their production happens. Like at the academy, we would generally use Calibu or Valrhona. Okay, but you could use either, like anyone. It does not. It depends on, of course, it does depend on the quality of the beans that are used to produce this cocoa powder.
How to use chocolate during monsoon and summer?
Air conditioned room, 18 to 25 degrees, controlled environment. So, in a controlled environment, once you put on the aircon inside the room, automatically your humidity is also controlled to a vast content. So, uh, if you're working with chocolate and you want to go full blown into making chocolate and manufacturing chocolate and confections out of chocolate, the first investment you would make is a good air conditioner, okay, before any other thing, because you need a very controlled environment to work with chocolate. You cannot work in very humid hot conditions. You will not be able to temper your chocolate. Okay.
Are local made more good enough for baking, or we can go for some special mode?
We are not talking about baking here as such, but if you're talking about the polycarbonate molds for chocolate, you can use local, you can use from Chocolate World, from Pavoni, from any brand that you wish to, uh, Chinese, whichever you want. There is no problem. Uh, you can go with any of them. That's it. Okay. I hope I've answered most of your queries. If you still do have some queries regarding the theory of chocolate, you could put in your queries on the Aapka Chef online subscribers page on Facebook under Basic Chocolates, and we would be glad to answer them for you. Okay. With that, I will say goodbye. Thank you for attending this class. I loved answering all the questions for you, and I hope you had a good time learning as well. Thank you.